Hello there. I hope that you're doing well. Today, we're going to take it real nice and slow. Completely different style of video. I'm going to be reading a little bit from a book that I've been enjoying lately called Indistractable. Now, if you're not one for reading videos or just talking videos, completely fine. Feel free to check out the other videos, but wanted to try something a little bit slower and new. I've really been enjoying this book. Up front, I'm not sponsored by anything. I don't get any kickback if you want to buy this book or anything like that. I've been reading it, and it's kind of been one of the first self-help books that I've read that isn't just telling you what you need to do in your life to make it better. And I'm actually starting to apply some of the things in this book to my own life. And it's about how to control your attention. It's made by someone who, the author of Hooked, which was about basically how social media companies exploit your attention to make you scroll infinitely and things like that. And now this is how to be unhooked, pretty much. I'm going to read 2 chapters from this book, I think, at least. One is titled Turn Your Values into Time, and then the other is about personal relationships. And I really like the ideas behind these 2 chapters specifically. Some of the other stuff relates to like work and different facets of life that don't directly apply to me. So, yeah. Enjoy. I'm just going to be reading a little bit, mostly soft-spoken. Don't think I'll do any whispering, but let me know what you think about this video style. I know I got a couple requests to read, so I'm going to try that. One window on the other side of the apartment is open. You might get a little bit of car sounds. I live on a busier street. Maybe some bird sounds, but this is my little reading chair in the corner, so I hope you enjoy. Sorry for the long introduction, but we'll get right into it now. These chapters are fairly short, no more than 10 pages, so quick reads. That's a nice book in that sense too. One of my resolutions this year is to read some books, so that's what this is. This is the cover if you're interested in. Alright. Chapter 9. Turn your values into time. Traction draws you towards what you want in life, while distraction pulls you away. In part 1, we learned ways to cope with the internal triggers that can drive us to distraction and how to reduce the sources of discomfort. If we don't control our impulse to escape uncomfortable feelings, we'll always look for quick fixes to soothe our pain. The next step is to find ways to make traction more likely, starting with how we spend our time. The German writer and philosopher Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, sorry for butchering that name, believed he could predict someone's future based on one simple fact. If I know how you spend your time, he wrote, then I know what might become of you. Think of all the ways people steal your time. The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing which is right to be stingy. Though Seneca was writing more than 2,000 years ago, his words are just as applicable today. Think of all the locks, security systems, and storage units that we use to protect our property, and how little we do to protect our time. I've never really read out loud, so apologies. Our most precious asset, our time, is unguarded, just waiting to be stolen. If we don't plan our days, someone else will. So we need to make a schedule. But where do we begin? The common approach is to make a to-do list. We write down all the things we want to do and hope we'll find the time throughout the day to do them. Unfortunately, this method has some serious flaws. Anyone who has tried keeping such a list knows many tasks tend to get pushed from one day to the next, and the next. Instead of starting with what we're going to do, we should begin with why we're doing it. And to do that, we must begin with our values. According to Russ Harris, author of The Happiness Trap, values are how we want to be, what we want to stand for, and how we want to relate to the world around us. They are attributes of the person we want to be. For example, they may include being an honest person, being a loving parent, or being a valued part of a team. We never achieve our values any more than finishing a painting would let us achieve being creative. A value is like a guiding star. It's the fixed point we use to help us navigate our life choices. Though some values carry over into all facets of life, most are specific to one area. For example, being a contributing member of a team is something people generally do at work. Being a loving spouse or parent occurs within the context of a family. Being the kind of person who seeks wisdom or physical fitness is something we do for ourselves. The trouble is, we don't make time for our values. We unintentionally spend too much time in one area of our lives at the expense of others. We get busy at work at the expense of living out our values with our family or friends. If we run ourselves ragged caring for our kids, we neglect our bodies, minds, and the friendships and prevent ourselves from being the people we desire to be. If we chronically neglect our values, we become something we're not proud of. Our lives feel out of balance and diminished. Ironically, this ugly feeling makes us more likely to seek distractions to escape our dissatisfaction without actually solving the problem. These are deep. Whatever our values may be, it's helpful to categorize them into various life domains, a concept that is thousands of years old. The Stoic philosopher Heracles demonstrated the interconnected nature of our lives, with concentric circles illustrating a hierarchical balance of duties. He placed the human mind and body at the center, followed close by family in the next ring, then extended families, then fellow members of one's tribe, then inhabitants of one's city, fellow citizens and countrymen next, finishing with all of humanity in the outermost ring. Inspired by his example, I created a way to simplify and visualize the 3 life domains where we spend our time. You can see that here. It's you, relationships, and work. These 3 domains outline where we spend our time. They give us a way to think about how we plan our days so that we can become an authentic reflection of the people we want to be. In order to live our values in each of these domains, we must reserve time in our schedules to do so. Only by setting aside specific time in our schedules for traction, or the actions that draw us towards what we want in life, can we turn our backs on distraction. Without planning ahead, it's impossible to tell the difference between traction and distraction. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it's distracting you from. I know many of us bristle at the idea of keeping a schedule because we don't want to feel hampered, but oddly enough, we actually perform better under constraints. This is because limitations give us a structure, while a blank schedule and a mile-long to-do list torments us with too many choices. The most effective way to make time for traction is through time boxing. Time boxing uses a well-researched technique psychologists call setting and implementation intention, which is a fancy way of saying deciding what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. It's a technique that can be used to make time for traction in each of your life domains. The goal is to eliminate all white space on your calendar so you're left with a template for how you intend to spend your time each day. It doesn't matter what you do with your time so much. Rather, success is measured by whether you did what you planned to do. It's fine to watch a video, scroll social media, daydream, or take a nap, as long as that's what you plan to do. Alternatively, checking work email, a seemingly productive task, is a distraction if it's done when you intend to spend time with your family or work on a presentation. Keeping a time box schedule is the only way to know if you're distracted. If you're not spending your time doing what you planned, you're off track. To create a weekly time box schedule, you'll need to decide how much time you want to spend on each domain of your life. How much time do you want to spend on yourself, on important relationships, and your work? Note that work doesn't exclusively mean paid labor. The work domain can include community service, activism, and side projects. How much time in each domain would you allow to be consistent with your values? Start by creating a weekly calendar template for your perfect week. Next, book 15 minutes on your schedule every week to reflect and refine your schedule by asking 2 questions. Question 1 is about reflection. When in my schedule did I do what I said I would do, and when did I get distracted? Let's see. Second, refine. Are there changes I can make to my calendar that will give me the time I need to better live out my values? Maybe something expected came up, or perhaps there was a problem with how you planned your day. Time boxing enables us to think of each week as a mini experiment. The goal is to figure out where your schedule didn't work out in the prior week so you can make it easier to follow the next time around. The idea is to commit to a practice that improves your schedule over time by helping you know the difference between traction and distraction for every moment of the day. When our lives change, our schedules can too. But once our schedule is set, the idea is to stick with it until we decide to improve it on the next go-around. Approaching the exercise of making a schedule as a curious scientist rather than a drill sergeant gives us the freedom to get better with each iteration. In this section, we'll look at how to make time for traction in the 3 domains of your life. We'll also discuss how to sync expectations of how you spend your time with your stakeholders in your life, like coworkers and managers. Before moving on, consider what your schedule currently looks like. I'm not asking you about the things you did, but rather the things you committed to doing and writing. Is your schedule filled with carefully time-boxed plans, or is it mostly empty? Does it reflect who you are? Are you letting others steal your time, or do you guard it as the limited and precious resource that it is? By turning our values into time, we make sure that we have time for traction. If we don't plan ahead, we shouldn't point fingers, nor should we be surprised when everything becomes a distraction. Being indistractable is largely about making sure you make time for traction each day and eliminating the distraction that keeps you from living the life you want. One that involves taking care of yourself, your relationships, and your work. So that's Chapter 9. Chapter 10 is control the inputs, not the outcomes, but I'm going to skip that one because I like the relationship one a lot. And it's a rather short one. They're all a few pages. So, I hope you've been enjoying the reading so far. We'll get through this chapter and call it good there. So, Chapter 11. Schedule important relationships. Family and friends help us live our values of connection, loyalty, and responsibility. They need you and you need them, so they are clearly far more important than a mere residual beneficiary, a term I first heard in an Economics 101 class. In business, a residual beneficiary is the chump who gets whatever is left over when a company is liquidated, typically not much. In life, our loved ones deserve better, and yet, if we're not careful with how we plan our time, residual beneficiaries are exactly what they become. One of my most important values is to be a caring, involved, and fun dad. Not me, the author of this book. While I aspire to live out this value, being a fully present dad is not always convenient. An email from a client informs me that my website is down. The plumber texts me to tell me that his train is stalled and he needs to reschedule. My bank notifies me of an unexpected charge on my card. Meanwhile, my daughter sits there waiting for me to play the next card in our game of gin rummy. To combat this problem, I've intentionally scheduled time with my daughter every week. Much like I schedule time for a business meeting or time for myself, I block out time on my schedule to be with her. To make sure we always have something fun to do, we spent one afternoon writing down over 100 things to do together in town, each one on a separate little strip of paper. Then, we rolled up all the little strips and placed them inside of our fun jar. Now every Friday afternoon we simply pull an activity from the fun jar and do it. Sometimes we'll visit a museum, while other times we'll play in the park or visit a highly rated ice cream parlor across town. That time is reserved just for us. Truth be told though, the fun jar idea doesn't always work out as smoothly as I'd like. It's hard for me to muster up the energy to head to the playground when New York's temperatures fall below freezing. On those days, a cup of hot cocoa and a couple chapters of Harry Potter sounds way more inviting for both of us. What's important, though, is that I've made it a priority in my weekly schedule to live up to my values. Having this time in my schedule allows me to be the dad that I envisioned myself to be. Similarly, my wife Julie and I make sure we have time scheduled for each other. Twice a month we plan a special date. Sometimes we see a live show or indulge in an exotic meal, but mostly we just walk and talk for hours. Regardless of what we do, we know that this time is cemented in our schedules and will not be compromised. In the absence of this scheduled time together, it's too easy to fill up our days with other errands like running to the grocery store or cleaning the house. My scheduled time with Julie allows me to live out my value of intimacy. There's no one else I can open up to the way I can with her, but this can only happen if we make the time. Equality is another value in my marriage. I always thought I behaved in a way that upheld that value. I was wrong. Before my wife and I had a clear schedule in place, we found ourselves bickering about why certain tasks weren't getting done around the house. Several studies show that among heterosexual couples, husbands don't do their fair share of housework, and I'm sad to admit, one of them. Darcy Lockman, a psychologist in New York City, wrote in the Washington Post, "Employed women partnered with employed men carry 65% of the family's child care responsibilities, a figure that has held steady since the turn of the century." But like many men Lockman interviewed in her research, I was somehow oblivious to the tasks my wife handled. As one mother told Lockman, "He's on his phone or computer while I'm running around like a crazy person getting the kids' stuff, doing the laundry. He has had his coffee in the morning reading his phone while I'm packing lunches, getting our daughter's clothes out, helping our sons with homework. He just sits there. He doesn't do it on purpose. He has no awareness of what's happening around him. I ask him about it and he gets defensive." It was as if Lockman had interviewed my wife. But if my wife wanted help, why didn't she just ask? I later came to realize that figuring out how I could be helpful was itself work. Julie couldn't tell me how I could help because she already had a dozen things on her mind. She wanted me to take initiative, to jump in and start helping out. But I didn't know how. I had no idea, so I'd either stand there confused or slink off to do something else. Too many evenings followed the script, ending in late dinners, hurt feelings, and sometimes tears. During one of our date days, we sat down and listed all the household tasks that each of us performed, making sure nothing was left out. Comparing Julie's seemingly endless list to mine was a wake-up call that my value of equality in our marriage needed some help. We agreed to split the household jobs, and most important, time-box the tasks on our schedules, leaving no doubt about when they would get done. Working our way towards a more equitable split of the housework restored integrity to my value of equality in my marriage, which also improved the odds of having a long and happy relationship. Lockman's research supports this benefit. A growing body of research in family and clinical studies demonstrate that spousal equality promotes marital success and that inequality undermines it. There's no doubt scheduling time for family and ensuring that they were no longer the residual beneficiary of my time greatly improved my relationship with my wife and daughter. This domain extends beyond just family. Not scheduling time for the important relationships in our lives is more harmful than most people realize. Recent studies have shown that a dearth of social interaction not only leads to loneliness, but it also links to a range of harmful physical effects. In fact, a lack of close friendships may be hazardous to your health. Perhaps the most compelling evidence that friendships affect longevity comes from the ongoing Harvard study of adult development. Since 1938, researchers have been following the physical health and social habits of 724 men. Robert Waldinger, the study's current director, said in a TEDx talk, "The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. Socially disconnected people are, according to Waldinger, less happy, their health declines earlier in midlife, their brain functioning declines sooner, and they live shorter lives than people who are not lonely." Waldinger warned, "It's not just the number of friends you have, it's the quality of your close friendships that matter." But what makes for a quality friendship? William Rawlins, a professor of interpersonal communications at Ohio University who studies the way people interact over the course of their lives, told The Atlantic that satisfying friendships needs 3 things: somebody to talk to, somebody to depend on, and someone to enjoy. Finding someone to talk to, depend on, and enjoy often comes naturally when we're young, but as we grow into adulthood, the model for how to maintain friendships is less clear. We graduate and go our separate ways, pursuing careers and starting new lives miles apart from our best friends. Suddenly, work obligations and ambitions take priority over having beer with buddies. If children enter the picture, exhilarating nights on the town become exhausted nights on the couch. Unfortunately, the less time we invest in people, the easier it is to make do without them, until one day it's too awkward to reconnect. This is how friendships die. They starve to death. But as the research reveals, by allowing our friendships to starve, we're also malnourishing our own bodies and minds. If the food of friendship is time together, how do we make time to ensure we're all fed? Despite our busy schedules and surfeit of children, my friends and I have developed a social routine that ensures regular get-togethers. We call it the kibbutz, which is Hebrew for gathering. For our gathering, 4 couples, my wife and me included, meet every 2 weeks to talk about one question over a picnic lunch. The question might range from a deep inquiry like what is one thing you are thankful your parents taught you, to a more practical question like should we push our kids to learn things they don't want, like playing the piano. Having a topic helps in 2 ways. First, it gets us past the small talk of sports and weather, giving us an opportunity to open up about stuff that really matters. Second, it prevents the gender split that often happens when couples convene in groups. Men in one corner, women in the other. Having a question of the day gets us all talking together. The most important element of the gathering is its consistency. Rain or shine, the gathering appears on our calendars every other week. Same time, same place. There's no back and forth, emailing to hammer out logistics. To keep it even simpler, each couple brings their own food, so there's no prep or cleanup. If one couple can't make it, no big deal. The gathering goes ahead as planned. The gathering lasts about 2 hours, and I always leave with new ideas and insights. Most important, I feel closer to my friends. Given the importance of close relationships, it's essential we plan ahead. Knowing there is time set aside for the gathering ensures it happens. No matter what kind of activity fulfills your need for friendship, it's essential to make time on your calendar for it. The time we spend with our friends isn't just pleasurable, it's an investment in our future health and well-being. And that is chapter 11. So, those are 2 chapters from the book. There's 30-something. There's different parts to it. Internal triggers, traction, external triggers, distractions, workplace, children, and relationships. 35 chapters in total, about 228 pages. So, I'm almost done with the book. I'm on like chapter 27. But those 2 chapters I really enjoyed, and I'm starting to apply some stuff from those and other chapters to my life. So I hope you enjoyed the little reading, a little bit of a longer video, so enjoy the sleep if you can, and let me know what you think. Thanks for coming, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video real soon.